Hello, everybody. Welcome to Perspectives. I'm your host, Sam Jones, and I'm so glad you could join us today. Our first guest is Amy Turner. Amy, welcome. It's good to have you here.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
And you are with?
Mindset Behavioral Health.
Now, that's a business in town, right?
That's correct. Yes.
What do you do?
I'm a licensed professional counselor and licensed alcohol and drug counselor. And I have a group practice in Tulsa. And I have 11 therapists that work in that group practice, and we address trauma and substance abuse.
Before we get in further, I got to ask you, how do you feel about these pop-up groups on the internet now that are offering counseling via the internet?
Okay, yeah, so I know what you're talking about. I think that it is definitely not as effective as having a counselor to go see, but I think that if you don't have any other options, I think it's a good option because I think being able to talk to a professional is important. I have talked to a couple people that work for those companies, and that they told me that they just text with their clients. So I think for me personally, that wouldn't be very effective.
What did the pandemic do to us?
Well, I believe that it really pushed us into having, somewhat of a mental health meltdown, just because there were so many rapid changes mostly with interacting with one another, that I think that it caused a lot of problems with unemployment and the lack of connection with other people. We saw the suicidal ideation and suicide attempts and successes raise. We saw people that were in recovery, the rates of relapse increased. I heard a lot of people say they started day drinking because they were bored, and so I think a lot of people, they started having greater substance abuse issues, so a lot of isolation at that time.
Let me just give you the opportunity to give me a ballpark idea here, but what's the biggest drug problem facing America right now?
I would say it's definitely the fentanyl crisis.
Is that right? Why?
Well, I mean, for one thing, fentanyl is the most powerful drug out there. And I mean, if you think of a drug like fentanyl that's measured in micrograms rather than milligrams, like a lot of other medications are measured, it's just way more potent than any other drug, and there's so many people dying. I don't think that they've updated the records past 2020, but I believe that we had about 93,000 overdoses in 2020.
In Oklahoma or nationwide?
Nationwide. And they said about 80% of those overdoses were fentanyl. So, and there's two different ways to look at that. I mean, there's an overdose for somebody that's actually, using opiates and they maybe have addiction or substance use disorder. But then there's also the problem with fentanyl being sold as something else. So like counterfeit pills. A lot of people are dying, and so they're classifying that more as a poisoning because they don't know that what they're taking is fentanyl.
You will understand what I'm saying here, but the folks at home may not realize fentanyl has created major changes in local police departments all across the country, how they deal with folks, and they have to learn to recognize what they're dealing with, which changes the formula of police work. Mm-hmm. Are there other businesses that have been changed that have to deal with people?
I mean, absolutely. I believe that there, just in the last couple of years, it's gotten a lot worse here in Tulsa. I know that for me personally, My business has changed due to the rapid increase in this drug coming into our state. I mean, I don't know necessarily what. I don't know how to answer that, honestly. So I just believe that there are organizations that are starting now that are trying to raise the awareness for fentanyl and fentanyl poisoning, but mostly it has started with grieving families. Families that have
Really?
become victims of their children dying.
Holy Toledo, I had not recognized that even, that had never crossed my mind.
Yes.
Grieving families. Well then, if they turn to fentanyl, where are they getting it?
Well,
On the street?
on the street, yes, and if I've seen on the news lately that there's been quite a bit of fentanyl picked up here in Tulsa, but they can get, kids can get it on social media. So they can get on Snapchat and order a Percocet or a Xanax, and they don't really know what's in it. So I was actually listening to a podcast this morning. It was a mother, and she was talking about her 17-year-old son. She lived in California, and she said that they found him in his bedroom, and that whenever they tracked it down, that he had gotten on Snapchat and ordered a Percocet. And it just takes trace amounts for somebody that doesn't have a tolerance to opiates at all.
We got about 40 seconds, and I'm sorry that we don't have more time, but is there a website where folks can go and learn more about you and maybe contact you?
Yes. Mindset -bhs.com, and my name's Amy Turner. You can Google my name and it'll come up. So mindset-bhs.com, or just Google Mindset Behavioral Health.
Hey, thanks for coming by. We really appreciate it, and thanks for the red flag warning. I mean, I knew it was bad. I didn't know it was that bad.
Yeah.
That's really interesting. Thank you again.
Thank you.
We're going to take a short break. We'll be back with more right after this.